Hello, welcome to Reco12. My name is Karen A. from Jerusalem, and I'm a grateful recovering addict in multiple fellowships. OA, Al-Anon, and Coda, just to name a few. I feel super blessed to be a host of this meeting and podcast that is brand new in the Afro-Euro Timezone. I'm sure that we'll pick up speed and grow this family and spread recovery to this side of the universe. I hope that you will find these podcasts helpful and you'll draw strength and hope. We hope to host these once every other week. So that means next Wednesday we're off, and the Wednesday after that, I believe that might be September 9th. No, August 23rd. We will be back on again every other week. 9 a.m. GMT, 11 a.m. Israel time. Reco12 is an organization with the mission of learning and sharing the similarities of addictions of all kinds and gaining and sharing tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We come together from all places, faiths, and backgrounds to gain tools and hope from others. Speakers from our past meetings have represented many fellowships, addictions, and afflictions. We look forward to continuing to add recovery and diversity of recovery in this special community, and we pray that this benefits you. Today's speaker is our wonderful Tori from the UK, and I will let her introduce herself and her special topic. And I'm proud to say Tori is an amazing fellow in my God squad. And without further ado, Tori, welcome. Please share about your recovery bio, your topic, and you've got about 20 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for asking me to share on here today. So yeah, I'm Tori, I'm an addict. I'll just say addict because it covers everything, because I have the disease of addiction. But I like to introduce myself as a precious child of God, which I do on meditation meetings. I try and respect the house I'm in, but my identity today is a precious child of God, and I know that, through going through these steps and building that relationship. And for me, it's not been an overnight matter. I've actually really put some work in, and really learn who I am and who I'm not. And that's what a lot of the step work's done for me. Who I'm not, when I'm in God's will. when I'm treated and in God's will. So I came into recovery in 2016. I went into a treatment centre. I turned 36 in there. I was a drug addict from being very, very young. Crime, prostitution, all that stuff. And when I first came out of that, I came back to my hometown. I joined a fellowship, and I remember I got introduced to 12-step recovery in a treatment centre. And in actual fact, that wasn't true. I was taken to my first meeting when I was 21 years old, but I'd forgot. And it was only through doing some work and continuing to do the work, which I do, and I do it gratefully today, that I really understand and started to understand, but still I understand more than ever, that I cannot differentiate the true from the false. And when I'm saying this stuff, I really believe it to be true. And I've got this delusion of who I am. And what I don't know is I'm not that person. That's like a character that I've had for so many years. I believe I am that person. And I remember early on having a sponsor, and she'd say to me, Tori, the masks have to go. And I think, what is this woman talking about? Because I really believed I was like this person. And I came to see it was the thing that had got me through life, being loud, being a bit aggressive, just like self-will run riot is what this woman used to say to me. And I used to think, what is she on about? I'm not that person. And I'm going to talk about, my topic that I've chosen is trusting and relying on God. And so I've kind of covered, I was 7 years clean a couple of weeks ago. And for me, there is a difference between having abstinence and having recovery, because I have been clean and crazy. And when I came out of treatment, I was doing the very best I could. but I was absolutely crazy. Really, and I laugh. And I've got compassion for that girl. I was 36, I was a girl. And today I can say I'm a woman. I'm a precious child of God, but I am a woman and I know how to be a woman today. And I've done that. And I continue to learn, actually. I continue to learn how to do that through doing the work, putting myself around strong fellas. And it's not always been putting myself around people who I particularly like. I've had to put myself around people who can teach me how to live in this world. And like today, I don't particularly dislike people today either, like I did when I first came in. When I first came, I was like, oh, I'm not listening to that person or that person. And that takes me to my topic, trusting and relying on God. And I'm going to specifically focus on an area in my life at the minute that it's relevant. So I'm currently at my dad's house. I'm staying with my dad. He came out of hospital last Friday after having major surgery. He's recovering really well physically, but his memory is not what it was, and he's getting a bit confused. He's doing better each day, but I'm here, administering his medication. I've been advocating for him, so he's got a care package in place, and I'm kind of focusing it on doing it around my dad, which it's not too hard, but it's my other family members. Because I am like the actor who wants to run the show. And so I'm going to cover some bits in the book, how being the actor and trusting and fully relying on God, like, don't really marry up. So my dad's 78, and for quite a while he's looked a little bit grey. I'll just put it down to old age. And then a couple of months ago he started getting a bit of colour back in him. And then I seen him one day and he was like, so you look a bit yellow. So I was saying it to him. My dad's like a lot of older people, quite stuck in the ways. And anyway, in the end, I got him a doctor's appointment and I took him to the doctors the following day. It's really hard to get a doctor's appointment in my area. So I made the decision to ring the doctors. And these are the things that recovery is about for me. Like making the decision to ring the doctors. All right, I'm number 43 in the queue. Right, so me of myself. Oh, I'll ring back later. That's me of myself. The programme teaches me patience. So I sit and wait on the phone. I wasn't number 43, but I was like number 27 or something like that. But I sit and wait. The programme teaches me my maximum purpose is to be of usefulness to other people. Now, of myself, I don't really want to do that. Now, I don't mind doing it to a point. Like I said, I'm the actor who wants to run the show, so I'll do it all on my terms. And like days when I'm not feeling up to, I don't feel like it today. I'm that person. I deserve a day off. Like all these like stuff that comes in. Why do I deserve a day off? Does everyone else get a day off? Yeah, if they're lazy like me. But yeah, so I'll do that. Anyway, then we'll get the doctor's appointment, we'll go in, and he gets taken straight into hospital. Anyway, he ends up getting a cancer diagnosis. And throughout this, I've been able to be there for my dad. And he made himself more sick with the worry. And I was talking about it to someone a while ago, and they said, that phrase, worrying yourself to death. So I was there to, give him some emotional support, but give him some of that like pep talk stuff. And I think, like, God bless him, because I know for me, pep talks only get me so far because I've got a deep-rooted illness and it does run in my family, and no human power can solve that. So I couldn't do so much for him, but I was willing to do what I could, and also like willing not to get annoyed that he could only accept it to the level he could accept, because I know no human power can aid me. It's a log for anyone who's listening who doesn't go through the workbook in the fellowship that I'm in now. It's a big book sponsorship group, and we go through a workbook, which is a condensed version of the big book. And like doing that work's been a real game changer in my recovery. Because I've done a lot of work. I've done different fellowships, and And I get the words like, yeah, I need God. And I've had God. But then I'm like, oh, there's something missing, And the workbook that we do, it's so straightforward. It's so straightforward. Am I in column 4 or am I in column 5? I'm in column 4, my will. No, I deserve a day off. I'll try again later. Do you know all that stuff? Or God's will. Right? I just do the actions in front of me, the spiritual principles to strive for. And that's where I aim to be today. But I can only do it with God's power. Because like I said of myself, I'm lazy. But I'm just going to go to, on page 60, it talks about the actor. And I've got a few words underlined. So like the first requirement is that we be convinced. So I've got that word underlined. I've got to be convinced. Not just, oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Like convinced. And this kind of covers step 1 where I fully concede to my innermost self that I'm an addict. It doesn't matter what I'm sat on here saying, what I'm on the phone saying, what I'm sat in meetings saying. What do I really believe myself? Right. So I do fully concede that I'm an addict and I've got this illness of addiction and or alcoholism, whatever people want to call it. I've got this illness that no human power can help me with. And that like covers the log list within our workbook. And I also, I'm convinced of this because I've tried all that. I'm not that person that if you tell me, I'm like, oh yeah, but that's all right for you, but that's not me. I have tried everything, which is how I ended up going to my first meeting at the age of 21 and then ending up in 12-step fellowship at the age of 36, because in between I've tried everything else. But I have the illness that no human power can help me with. And when I say help me with, it's the freedom from the bondage of self that I need help with. Because lifelong drug addict, criminal, sex worker, all that stuff, I managed to put these things down bit by bit. And I didn't put it all down in one go, right? Because I'm still in the bondage of self. So I'm not using drugs, but I still think it's all right to do certain behaviours because X, Y, Z, whatever lie my mind tells me, because I'm full flight from reality. So I'm convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. So at this point, I'm just focusing on me. My life run on self-will can hardly be a success. So on that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. Most people try to live by self-propulsion. Each person. Now, in my book, I've got underlined each person. So in the scenario around my family, so I'm like main character for my dad. I have to remember each person, and there's some really strong personalities within my family. So we're all like the actor trying to run the show to one degree or another. And so I have to remember that. I've got a programme, they haven't. Now, I heard that said for years, like, yeah. Am I always loving and tolerant of my family with these words? No, I'm not. Until I get like a deeper understanding. And this is where I have to like fully rely on God. Like, learn to trust in Him. Sorry, the dog's coming in the background. Yeah. This takes me to page 68. Right, so perhaps there is a better way. We think so. For we are now on a different basis, the basis of trusting. So yeah, I learned to trust God and relying upon God. So I can have the trust, but how much am I relying on God? And it's that stuff, like really, really getting into it and like really getting an understanding. And I'm certain my understanding will continue to grow as my life goes on. But within this scenario, I've got a younger brother. We do not get on. We just don't get on. Made amends to him. He's, like I said, I come from an unwell family. So I have to look at like what's the most helpful thing for me to do in each situation that comes up. And a lot of time with my brother, I'm civil to him. But we did have an argument the other day. And so a lot of time I just don't get in it with him. But the other day we did have an argument, and I have to look at what's helpful. what's helpful, but also I have to like I claim spiritual progress, not perfection. So after this argument, like, he went in on me, I went in on him, and like it's a little bit rough in my family, like when it starts, and it doesn't start that often. But like afterwards, I can look at like where was I wrong? So obviously my pride's come up, but also this is where my inventory process comes in. Like I don't go into morbid reflection, worry, remorse, and all that. Because off that for me comes self-pity. Oh, I'm such a bad person. Do you know what? I'm human. I make mistakes. Within that scenario, my inventory, so a lot of the things I said, I'm all right with the things I've said. It's the way I say it. I'm like, yeah. So there. But then when I look at this, I think, right, is that just pure self-will run riot? I don't believe it was. There was a lot of self-will in there. But also I have to look at nothing happens in God's world by mistake. Me and my brother end up in the car together because my dad was trying to insist on this stuff. It's not reality. And I always go to that page, I can't remember what page it's on, but I reject fantasizing and accept reality. So I can see this as a reality. I mean, we just don't get on, we are civil. But it's never going to be, what I wanted it to be in the past. And I feel like my brother has like that as well. I get the impression. There's some like codependency stuff between me and my brother. But I accept reality. It's never going to be, well, we're both in our 40s anyway, but so that's there, trusting and relying on God. Like, these things happen for a reason. What will happen, will happen. But I still get to be consistent for my dad. Yeah. So that's just a really important thing for me. Yeah, so I just want to talk about as well, being able to advocate for my dad. Some of these things sound like they're really minor to some people, but I was quite aggressive before coming into recovery. I'm tall, I'm 5'10", and so I'm quite well built, and I would be quite shocked, when I'd be asked to. I'm on about drug services. I didn't really go many places, drug services, but I'd get like told, "Don't speak to me like that," and I think, what are you talking about? I didn't even know. I had no idea how I was coming across. I couldn't speak for myself, so I definitely couldn't speak for somebody else. And this program gives me the ability to ask in an assertive manner, not aggressive, not passive. And then this is what like the step work tells me. I'm not servile or groveling, so I'm not like submissive or aggressive. I can be assertive, and this program has given me the ability to, I'll get fully armed with the facts about myself. So I get fully armed with the questions that I need to ask for my dad, to advocate for my dad. And this goes back to like coming into the program. So I started off in another fellowship. I've been in Spiritual Gangsters for, I'm going to say, a year and a half. I did come in, I'll say 3 years ago. And I thought, oh, these aren't for me, these people. Content prior to investigation. I thought, the real American, and it turns out a lot of them are Canadian, the very American, the big book bashers. I'm like, oh, no, it's not for me. And you know what? This fellowship that I got into, I was like, it's the best thing, like the members in here. It's all about like, just get through the work, help other people. The fellowship I was in for years, the step work's slower, you have to go through the work. And a lot of it's really self-centered stuff. And like, it served a purpose in my life, and there's some really good people in there, but I know how to stick in a problem. I've done that all my life. And I do believe there is a place for talking about my feelings. But when I first come into recovery, I don't know how to talk about my feelings. I don't really know how to do it anyway, but I don't know how to navigate through that without going, ooh. I need to like get into the solution, get into action, and learn how to communicate with people, which I'm still continuing to do. And God's given me the ability to do that. And this goes to like my step 11 practice. I started going on this is a couple of years ago. I started going on this meditation group in the morning. And there's the guy who runs it, Real Gentle Soul. I remember I'd go on. They're just really nice as him. There was another Gentle Soul on there. Two men, Gentle Souls. So it's like a mix of people. I go on and talk and I go, oh, we love you, Tori. And I think, my body would tense up. Because I can talk, I can quote from the book all day. I can have like logical conversations. But do you know that deeper connection? It would make me cringe. But I kept turning up. I've been going on there for a couple of years now. I started going on other meditation groups where people are kind and they do affirmations and things that make me cringe. Not now they don't, but they're really my body. But that's what I didn't want that, but that's what I needed. And through trusting and relying on God, I'm willing to turn up and do these things and feel the discomfort and grow. Like, yeah, it's amazing. It's just all these things, all these tools, spiritual toolkit that I'm given, being willing to do the stuff all the time. Like, I've not wanted to do it. I've been, just doing it even with resistance. I have the ability to show up, do life, but I really have the ability to show up and be there for my dad and advocate for him and do it, a lot of it with ease. I do a lot of it with ease, and that's a miracle. Like, the book tells me that we are miracles of mental health, and I really am a miracle of mental health. But the spiritual peace that I have a lot of the time, not always, but a lot of the time, it really does, it surpasses my understanding. I don't even try working it out, and I can't work it out because I suffer with a thinking illness. So why would I want to do that? I think that's kind of covered thing with my dad. What I will say is I've done different fellowships and I've done various different works. I've done some trauma work as well. And that was a game changer in my recovery, I have to say. It was really horrendous. It was painful. But that I found it really, really, really helpful. And now I'll just focus on the big book stuff. And I live in my 10, 11 and 12. I get around strong fellas. I pick the phone up. I pick the phone up. And the more willing I was to pick the phone up and run stuff past another person, the less I need to do it. But when I need to do it, no qualms, I'll do it. I've got people, I've got God squad, I've got people I can trust. And I'll just share this. Karen asked me to share on here. She sent me instructions, they're really clear cut, because I'm tired of my dad and I'm doing stuff. I'm looking, I'm like, I understand that bit, I understand that bit. And my brain won't correlate. Do you know, that's all right. Because when I first came into recovery, I can't tell people that. They'll think I'm stupid. And I've always been willing to ask questions to a point. But this goes back to my step one. If I'm fully conceding to my inner self that I'm an addict, there's my step one. Then I need step two. If I've come to believe, like I came to believe, and I do believe, a power greater than me can restore me to sanity, sometimes that's just picking up the phone to another fellow. Can you help me see this straight? Yeah, of course I can, Tori. Simple as that. And there's a step three, turning my will and my life, so my thinking and my actions over to God of my understanding. And God's put so many amazing people around me. And that's what I did the other night. I took a bit of time getting back to Karen because I'm sat thinking, and my brain wouldn't work, so I just rang a fella. Like, can you just help me with this? I can't see straight. This fellow who knows me. And I tend to speak to, I don't speak, do you know what? I've never done this. I've never spoke to fellows who give me the answer. I speak to people who help me get to the answer myself. And that's where I see God within the conversation. Because I don't need you to do my recovery for me. I need you to just like guide me and like just get to God there. So thank you so much for asking me, Karen. I'm going to stop talking now and I will finish up with my prayer. And I'm kind of going to paraphrase it. I put it on saying, well, God, I can do all things through you who strengthens me. I turn my will and my life over to you. And I thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tori. That was just really moving and touching, and a special opportunity to get to know you and your recovery journey better. Thank you. I'm going to ask people to post questions in the Q&A. Only the hosts and panelists, that means me and Tori, see your questions. Not everyone else does, so they'll all ask them in your name anonymously. I've jotted down a few questions to kick us off, and maybe we'll start with those, but please write up your questions. Tori, you mentioned that you were clean and crazy. Can you talk about that? What that looked like, and without going into too much of a war story,
Yeah,
today.
Absolutely. So I did a treatment centre. I did 4 months in there. So I go in. So I've got no idea about the illness, addiction, alcoholism. So I'm in a treatment centre. We're going through the big book. I'm like, I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. I'm not an alcoholic. I can't listen to Bill Wilson, middle class, white stockbroker, Christian businessman. So closed off. But I'm also desperate. So it's like that desperation, that resistance in me. And I don't understand what I suffer with. And I'm 10. So I was in NA for years. So I do what's suggested, get sponsored, get the service, 90 metres in 90 days. I'm doing all that stuff. So I'm putting the right actions in, but my mind, it was so horrendous. It was horrendous. And I heard people talking about, I'm so grateful for my recovery. I'm grateful for my kids. I'm grateful for my family. And I'm sat rocking like this. I want to die. And I'm just doing this stuff. And but what I did start doing was I started doing sex work again. But it was okay because it's guys I knew from the past. They give me good money, all these things. But I'm doing work that shows me it goes against my personal morals and values. So it shows me the harm it does to me. Because at this point, I'm not interested in the harm I'm doing anyone else. I'm just about me and, like getting through this stuff. And it shows me the harm, the effect it has on me as a person, me as a woman. Yet I'm still doing it. But it's all right because I'm going to a convention. I'm doing some kind of recovery focused thing. So that in itself, I mean, there's other stuff as well. But that's like the main one. I've got facts written in front of me. This is really harmful, yet I'm still doing it. With a story on the end of why I'm doing it.
Yeah. And this is not an overnight matter, right? We kind of tackle our first addictions, our primary addictions, and then we realize our secondary addictions. I think you even mentioned that, the drugs and then the sex and then codependency. When did you know it was time? Because I know even the big book talks about, those guys drinking coffee and smoking cigarettes and all of that, when they're handling their alcoholism. And obviously we don't kind of bum rush, excuse my American phrase, bum rush all addictions at once. How did you know it was time to move into the next piece of recovery in your life?
So what I did was that behaviour, and this is where sponsorship comes in massively for me. So one of a really big thing for me is being authentic. I'm not that person who sits there trying to sound good or anything. I like authentic people and I value authenticity. So I can't in good conscience sit down sponsoring other women, talking about a spiritual program, applying spiritual principles when I'm doing stuff like that myself. And that was really, that was a big thing in me stopping doing it. However, there was still a thought process of, well, if I wasn't sponsoring, if it wasn't for that, the integrity and possibly a bit of pride in there as well, I would still do it if need be, was my thought process. And I was about 3 years in. I remember being about 3 years in and then, what am I doing here? But I this stuff, you can't leave the fellowship that saved your life. Stuff that I'd had. And I'd really judge myself on it. And in NA, this is my experience. There's a lot of people say one program, one solution. And when I kind of got over that, I just went elsewhere and started looking. I actually went to ACA next under the direction of my sponsor. And while I was there, she told me to go to a SLA meeting. And I was highly offended At this point, I wasn't doing any of that stuff, but I also wasn't maintaining relationships, and I was off in fantasy a lot of the time. But just being in within that fellowship and listening to some stuff, I was like, oh, right, yeah, I can relate to that, and I can relate to that. And yeah, my world opened up.
And how did you find healing in that next fellowship when you got into SLA and all of that? How did you find healing there? Excuse my background noise.
So what I would like, do you know what? I remember my first meeting I went on. I knew I didn't have very good taste in men. I do like a guy who's just come up. Not now. I am recovered in this area, but for years, I'll just share this. My first meeting that I went to when I was 21 is I'd met this guy who come out of prison for murder. He was clean off crack, and he took me to. There's like this really big clue. I couldn't see it. So it's like it was very apparent, but I remember my first meeting. I just remember someone sharing about unhealthy friendships. And I thought it just landed with me because on the surface, my friendships seemed all right. They weren't talking about inappropriate things or anything, but there was a dynamic where I'm the rescuer and they'd come with the problems. Then I'd end up getting resentful, but I kept setting myself up and just hearing some different stuff. And I tell you what else as well. When I was in the meetings, I'd hear people say, I'm so-and-so, I'm this, and listing off loads of stuff. So I've only ever done NA or AA, where I hate alcoholic or addict. And I'm thinking, what's this about? So my mind just started opening up to, my world got a bit bigger. And also earlier on when I mentioned that meditation group, I started going on in the morning with the gentle souls and, we love you, Tori. That was massive healing for me. Do you know, like the gentleness? Because I didn't really know how to do it. So, yeah.
I so relate to that, Tori, wanting the tough love sponsor and wanting the super coach. And it's like, I also came into spiritual gangsters through some very soft coded people who just heard me and validated me. And I got to the truth and the work myself without all that tough love or bossiness. It was just developing a relationship with God and the God peace within me. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. And maybe I'll ask a follow-up question to that, because I know I had my own journey with that. How did you balance yourself? Our book is a book of action, our program is a program of action. And yet we have so many rooms with zero recovery or very little recovery. How do you balance giving yourself that self-love and healing and kindness while, getting a move on it and doing, getting down to business, doing the work? How do you balance that?
That's a really good question, Karen. So throughout my recovery, and I've done this one time and time again, I'm good at getting into action. I'm like a high energy person. And I've actually got a best friend. She's 20 something years in recovery. So, and she's done and she's like a real gentle soul. And when I first met her, I remember seeing her in a meeting and she sat crying. I looked at her like she was an enigma. Anyway, so we ended up getting a friendship and she's really helpful. And, with the patience with me, she said, Tori, I think you're going to burn yourself out. So I've currently got some balance, but my experience is I do the same thing over and over again. I start like, I'm high energy, so I'll help this person, I'll do this, I'll do that. And then I get a burnout. And so it's really pausing, being open to what people say. And also, so she's really important. I have a couple of other people because I don't just rely on one person. That's not healthy either. My inventory. So inventory, but it is talking to another person. Sometimes I can't see, all right, I'm doing the same thing again. I'm just rushing around, being busy. And so pausing and having that quiet time and looking at my priorities as well. But in the Spiritual Gangsters workbook, I can't remember what step it is. I think it's somewhere towards the end of the book. There's a prioritizing something 1, 2, 3. This is what I was told to handwrite, and this is what I get sponsees to handwrite. So 1, it's my family. 2, it's my job. 3, it's the newcomers. Because when I first come in, I really focused on meetings, doing like helping newcomers and all that. But actually, and it helped me. It did. No, do you know? It helped me to a point. It helped me massively. But I was also using it as a way to avoid my family because I didn't know how to navigate through. I couldn't hold a conversation, so it was helpful to a point. But like, what's my motive for helping people, or doing this or doing that? And sometimes it's to avoid taking personal responsibility, and it goes back to being the actor again. Sometimes they're quite virtuous. And I do it without even realising, oh, right, yeah. Well, have I rang up to sort out my driving licence? Have I sorted out my gas bill? Do you know, them things? Oh, no, I've been too busy, like, sitting down with a sponsee or doing this or doing that. So, seeming virtuous, but avoiding reality. So, it's just an ongoing process. That was a really long answer to your question. Ongoing process and catching it.
Amazing. Thank you. We have a question now from Zoe D. Can you explain more about step 10, i.e. how often and when it should be done? Do you have some insight on that, Tori?
Yeah. So the fellowship I came from, step 10 was so like you do it on the night time. And then like I get into the big book and I've learned step 10, it's like catching myself, continuing throughout the day. Like even now I could, am I going to try and say something to sound good? I'm not really that person, but you know, that continuing like spot check inventory. So step 11 is like my nighttime thing, which is kind of a summary of my step 10 throughout the day. I find there's loads of tools. There's actually a rapid step 10 app, which I only came across recently. I think I've seen it shared loads of times. So I say came across, that's not the right words. I've seen it shared loads of times. I only investigated it because I didn't realise. I don't think I had consent prior to investigation, but I just I wasn't paying attention. But that's been a really valuable tool, and I only use it here and there. But you know, like if I'm in a situation where I'm getting stressed, like I can be really controlling around time frames. And I missed a train a few months ago. I missed a train because the guy was taking ages on the ticket barrier. But I was fuming. You know, the anger that came up inside me. And that's all down to my control around time frames. Anyway, I went out the front and I did this rapid step 10. Really helpful. That was, it was about before 7:30 in the morning. Helpful. This tool, you can do it in under 3 minutes, but it just gave me that pause. It let me see where I was wrong. And it was as simple as I could have gone and stood on the platform earlier than I did. But in my mind, I'm fuming angry because he should have had his ticket reader ready. He should be more considerate people like this time of the day. They must be going to work. It must be important. He. That's where my mind goes straight away. I like to blame people. I love to blame people, especially when I'm having a strong feeling. So, yeah, that app's really helpful. Other times when I'm not having a strong feeling, if I'm just like going through the day and like I've got a bit of spare time, I can just pause and I go through to like, you know, the reading in the book, like an intuitive thought might come in, or just like a knowing to do the action. It might just be just to pause and take in the beauty of the world if I've got like a spare 10 minutes or something. So it's just practice at any point.
I love that. I love that. Definitely do a step 10 and definitely pausing when agitated. I relate to that it can help us chill when we're getting agitated, when we need to put out of our minds the wrongs others have done us, whether it's the train or the kid or the relative or dad. And also is like a little bit of life insurance against the next resentment, you know, doing that, you know, that pausing, that morning meditation. I know that for me, even though I'm a religious woman and I do formal prayer daily, often twice, sometimes 3 times a day, that pausing and meditating is really taking out a bit of insurance. And I don't know, you probably relate to this, Tori. Lately, I've had a lot of people tell me how calm I am And my nature is not a calm nature. I'm not naturally calm. I'm a pretty hyper, like you, like to get a lot of stuff done, a whippersnapper. And I view that as a result of pausing when agitated. Do you connect to that meditation just is a lifesaver for the next incident, and only after you kind of like look back and you're like, hey, just half a year ago, that I would have probably flipped out over that, or I would have gotten really angry, and I didn't. That's this program. Do you relate to that?
Absolutely, Karen. So like when you were talking, it makes me thinking of putting on like spiritual armor. But I go back to, I had this sponsor. So it was my third sponsor. My first sponsor, she was intimidated by me. She told me later on. My second one is the one I was talking about. She said, self-will and riot. And I dropped the mask. I think, what's this woman talking about? And my third sponsor, I was with her for 4.5 years. And I remember she just said, what do you need from me, Tori? I said, I just need things saying really simply. If you just say it simple, where I've got no room to like, oh, does she mean this? Does she mean that? Think. And she said to me, she'd say it over and over again. She said, doing your meditation is like brushing your teeth, but for your brain. And I'm like, all right, okay. She didn't have to talk to me quite like that, like childlike. But she'd say it over and over again. She said, do you know when you brush your teeth in the morning, Tori? That's what meditating is. And like you've just said there, Karen, if I'm keeping my brain cleared out, then there's space for the good stuff. And it's not all like stacking up. And yes, I totally relate to that.
Yeah, amazing. And it just helps us with our 10, 11, and 12. We stop, we meditate. I stop and pray. I was just in the U.S. consulate here in Jerusalem this morning, and it's like my son is going on to a higher education institution. All of a sudden I was like, wow, God, please take care of him. Wish him, we stop, we can pray for what we need, and we can also count our blessings and obsess about gratitude. But if our motor is always running, we can't do that. So I'll just, jump in with you there on your answer, that beautiful answer to step 10. It's just like brushing your teeth, but the benefits far outweigh having, no plaque and healthy gums, right? It's like we can connect to gratitude and pray for what we need and what we want. Thank you. Okay, Emma M. loves you so much. You have been a guiding light in my recovery journey. I knew I liked you the minute I saw you online when I was new to SG. Sounds like love at first sight. I get that. I also loved Tori when I saw her. Despite being from wildly different backgrounds, we have formed a friendship, and I'm truly grateful and appreciate every day. Emma, oh, sorry, maybe that's supposed to be anonymous. Our question is, what would you say to someone who struggles with their family dynamic in order to stay in the solution? I bet a lot of people relate to that, a lot of dysfunctional family backgrounds.
So firstly, I would just say thank you for your friendship, Emma. Emma's one of the gifts of spiritual gangsters for me, and big part of my God squad. So for me, the stuff around my family in the beginning, there was a lot of I should this and I should that. I need to make up for this. I need to make up for that. And that's not a pure motive for being around them. I had to make sure I'm spiritually fit. And I'm spiritually fit by doing this stuff and simple things, eating well, getting enough sleep, knowing it's all right to cancel if need be, unless it's like a really important thing. Obviously, at the minute, I wouldn't cancel on my dad. But, like not being driven by guilt and shoulds, and looking at what's helpful. And also as well, and when I've been around my family, sometimes I've just had to go take 10 minutes time out or even half an hour, come back refreshed. There's been times where I've made a call, my mum. But then when I look back on my inventory, I've gone to my mum's house when I've not been spiritually fit because I feel like I should. So, yeah.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Because the way you spoke about your dad, it seems like it's such a beautiful relationship. And yet as an addict, it could come such a fine line between being of service and codependency, right? And I love that we're constantly asking ourselves, and this is a big part of my program, is it helpful? Is it helpful to go to my mother's house? I'm speaking about me, not about Tori now. Is it helpful to go to my mother's house when she's in a mood that she's chewing me out or putting me down? Probably not. Those are some tough decisions to make. But today, as recovered addicts, we have more backbone to do that because we know it won't serve God. We're not just, like Tori said, running out of guilt and obligation, etc. And I think that's another great tip is like, even if you did make the mistake or you did force yourself, it's still not too late. You could pause when there. You could WhatsApp your fellowship. You could WhatsApp your sponsor. I did that recently to Tori. I was sitting in a government office doing a ton of paperwork for a relative, and I got real overwhelmed and real ticked off, and my recovery family saved me. So I think that's a real helpful nugget, Tori's. Pausing when agitated means if you're agitated now, whether it's with mom, with dad, with brother, in the car, at the government office, in the social services line, you pause right there. May you find him now, right? Yeah. Anything else you want to add on that? If not, we'll take our next question.
No, just absolutely what you've just said. Pause. May you find him now.
Yeah.
May you find him now. Yeah. And do you know, actually, I will add this. So my mum, spiritually sick woman, like God bless her. She's also hilariously funny. Like myself, she's got a good side and a bad side. But I do see, like, me being in recovery, me saying no, because it's all right to say no. When my mum, like, so obviously I'm a few years in now, but I'd say it in a non-shaming way because I'm not there to shame my mother. And she's like talking about, oh, so. And I'm like, do you know what? I don't really want to have this conversation, Mum. Do you know, I don't think you're talking to the right person about this. And I don't say it with any attitude, but it's all right to say that in a non-shaming way. And like now, my mum doesn't bring certain conversations to me. And my belief is she doesn't have them conversations so much as she did. Like her world, it's broadened as well. So, do you know, like family illness and recovery can have a knock-on effect. And also my eldest daughter, I can see how me being assertive, she's really successful. She's just got a really good new job. She told me something yesterday and I felt really proud of her. So her grandmother's died in a different part of England. She's just started this job. So she wanted to find out about time off. So she got armed with the facts that she needed before asking about the time off. So she'd like be armed with what she needs to be armed with, whatever comeback came. And like so the comeback came. Obviously, my daughter doesn't say anything, but she's got the facts there. And that's a knock-on effect of me being in recovery because none of my family get armed with the facts. We just like turn up late to stuff. So it's just a really, really beautiful thing. So yeah.
Yeah, this is a family illness. And I once heard Harlan Z of OA say, what is the best thing you could do for the addicts in your life? What is the best thing you could do for your family? 3 things: recover, recover, recover. And we see a ripple effect. You spoke about a daughter, you spoke about a mother. When we say no and we're connected, different people change in our lives. I definitely relate to that and definitely see how my shift, or even when I say no and I don't do something, they figure out a different way. I don't have to play God anymore. I don't have to run the show. I love Zoe D's question. I think we're going to take it and then we'll wrap up because it's a great question. She's asking, is there a set number of sponsees you work with at any one time? Is there such a thing as too many sponsees?
I like that question. Zoe, thanks for your question. So, like I said, I've been in different fellowships. My experience in the Spiritual Gangsters workbook, it's really, obviously I know you do that, Zoe. It's straightforward. It's solution for, I find that quite a straightforward way of taking people through the steps. So when doing that, I've actually had more sponsees than I've had in different fellowships. So in the past, I wouldn't have more than 3. But like now, do you know what? I couldn't really tell you how many I say sponsees like that. I'm taking a couple of people through the workbook, but then I've got people I've took through the work who I still connect with. I just look at, it depends on where I've been at. So when I've been working, I'm not working at the minute, so I do have more time. But like, because I'm looking after my dad, I've got a little less time. So I just had to look at what time have I got to give and what's my motives for taking on so many sponsees. Because at one time I had 6 people in the workbook, and it's great to be helpful, but I was doing that as a way of avoiding myself and avoiding sorting out my kitchen, getting a kitchen fitted. I was doing it as a way of avoiding myself. So, like, I have to ask myself, what's my motives? Am I spiritually fit for this? And I get spiritually fit through helping people. But if I'm giving more than I've got to give, what's helpful about that? I'm just giving a little bit here and a little bit there rather than being of like maximum service to someone. So my answer would be, I think it's down to an individual based on personal circumstances. And I will say this, I've always had a bit of a thing like, I've got 22 sponsees in different fellowships. And I just think, what is that about? Because I've not got the energy for 22 sponsees all the time. So what am I actually giving this person? But each to their own. So I hope that was helpful, Zoe.
Yeah, I also find 2 to 3 people is about right. Not that Tori or I have the monopoly on this answer, and obviously depends. I have children at home. I work a full-time job. Some people are full-time in recovery, but giving a few people your attention and getting them through. Oh, I wrote down a question. We got to bring this into here because you said something great here. I personally like working with a few people because I like getting them through swiftly. Our founding fathers in the big book took people through in a few hours. And one thing about the fellowship that Tori and I are both in is we don't drag this out. It's not a step forward as a whole drawn out ordeal like it is in many fellowships. Can you talk about how you work with other people and get them through the steps? I'm making an assumption that you get them through relatively quickly. How long do you take? With each of your 2 to 3 sponsees, how long do you take to get them through and up and sponsoring other people? And we'll close out with that.
Yeah, so it depends on who I'm working with. So if it's someone who's like not got kids, not got a job, then I just make myself available, and I just point out like willingness. And I've currently got someone on a step 4 at the minute, and I'll just share about this guy. I really like him. He's in my home group, my face-to-face Sunday night home group. He's 3 years sober, suicidal. But he's been in the rooms for over 20 years, had a year. I think this is the longest he's had. And he's on a step 4, and God bless him. He comes with the words, the big book quotes and stuff like that. And so I pointed out to him the other day, struggling with step 4, you pick the phone up, there's your step 2. And he's not picked the phone up, so I just sent him a message because it's not on me to do his recovery, but all I'm just a vessel. It's up to you to turn up. I've had some sponsees who are really willing, they want to get through the work, and they don't. What I do when I do a step work session, I say, is there anything you want to talk about? And I give 5 minutes space, just to talk about whatever, then we get into the work. And some people want to get through it quick, some people not so quick. But in my experience with the workbook, I've only, apart from this guy now, I've only had one sponsee who was a newcomer she was dragging her feet a bit. And it's like the same thing, dragging, like hers was like fear because it's the unknown, which I get, it was the first step 4. And this one, it's I think I know too much. But generally, I I'm not one of them who just like meets up once a week, because I have got the time on my hands. So I'm happy to do an hour this day, the next day, up to 2 hours at a time, like depending on like how willing and how available the sponsor is. Do the work.
Maybe we'll put Tori, are you able to post your number in the chat if people want to reach out to you to work together? Because that's very generous. Not everybody's quite that available. I know I had a sponsor. Somehow, by the grace of God, I was desperate enough and willing. I know she spoke to me once every 2 to 3 months. But Tori, are you able to post your number here in the chat, or is that who's able to? Amazing. So really, Tori, that was wonderful and moving. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was great. It was great to hear you share. It was great to hear about your expertise in recovering and tackling multiple addictions, going from primary to secondary. It was great to hear you talk about the family afterwards and addiction being a family illness. And it was great to hear you talk about step 12 and sponsorship. And my blessing to all you all on this recording and anyone who hears this recorded is that you all work with others, because that's where the big money is, that's where the big recovery is. And I'm sure Tori echoes this. This is where we found the Holy Grail and so much joy in our lives. And it trickles into all areas of our lives. So with that, I'm going to mention one more time that Tori, you posted it to hosts and panelists. Can you know what? Can you repost it to everybody? Or do you need me to do that? Maybe I'll do it. Oh, no, you need to do that. Are you able to select? You're on mute. Do you see? Are you able to post to everyone or just me? You're on mute.
Yeah. Let me try. I'm like really bad with technology, Karen. Panelists. No, it's not letting me. I don't know if you can just copy and paste that into the chat.
Basically, I'm going to retype it in. Okay. So with that, Tori, if you want to take a deep breath and pray us out here.
Yeah, absolutely, Karen. Thank you. And just before I pray, I'm going to just say about the sponsoring. Massive thing, building connection and building intimacy, because that's what I've always struggled with. Give me knowledge, but that intimacy, that real connection. So God, I just thank you for this opportunity to come and share my experience, strength and hope with other people. And I thank you for the people that have come to listen and the questions that have been asked. And I just say, and hope other people know this too, that I can do all things through you who strengthens me, God. And I give you my will and my life. I thank you for what you've given and what you've taken away. Amen.
Amen. Wow. Thank you again. That was a great Reco12 speaker meeting for all addicts and their loved ones. If we didn't get to your questions, or if you have other questions, please consider joining our WhatsApp community. And you can send an email to Reco12pod, that's Reco12pod @gmail.com, and join our community and ask those questions. If you were inspired and want to share something of your insights in a 12-step type share, please go to the Reco12 Share Speak Pipe link and share your 3 to 4 minute share there. If you've not yet rated or reviewed the podcast in Apple Podcasts, please do so now. It's a great way to work step 12 and sharing this message with others. And of course, if you are interested in being my guest on this wonderful podcast in the Afro-Euro Timezone, I will be more than honored to have you, and we will spread more recovery on this side of the globe. I will be posting my number in the chat. And maybe just to wrap up, just kidding. We'll do that now. And to wrap up, maybe we can say the Serenity Prayer. Does that work for you, Tori? You want to unmute and say that together? Anyone who would like to can join us, even though we can't hear you. God,
grant us the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, courage to change the things we can, And wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you, everybody. Have a beautiful and blessed day.
I've seen stars fall from above. I've fallen in and out of love. I've been high and I've been low. Now I know I just can't do this on my own. I've seen a boy become a man. He got lost without a plan. He's so far away from home. Now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. I'm looking for the words to say. You make the world a better place, and I can call that place my home. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. Your arms surrounding me. Your touch is grounding me. No longer searching for purpose all alone. 'Cause now I know that I just can't do this on my own. So let me see just what you need to set you free, so we can be. I saw stars fall from above. I fell in and out of love. I got high and I fell low. But now I know that I just can't do this on my own. No, I just can't do this on my own. I just can't do this on my own.